I turned the thermostat to 68 at 6:05 a.m. because that's how I measure dignity now, by 2 degrees. My little ranch in Parma, Ohio, sits on a street where every mailbox has a dent, and the garbage can know the name of the wind. The furnace complains. I tell it we're in this together. The Keurig, 2 pods left, coughs out a muddy half-cup like it, too, has an opinion about my life choices. I eat the same breakfast. 1 slice of rye, toasted on setting 3. A thin scrape of butter. 2 eggs fried hard in a cast iron that remembers my late wife, Carol, better than I do in the mornings. I salt them more than I should. At 71, the cardiologist tells me to take pity on my arteries. The salt shaker listens to no one. My son, Ethan, calls around 7:30 when he wants something. He calls me Dad, like it's a membership I forgot to pay. He moved to Strong's Villa last year with Nicole, my daughter-in-law, to a beige house with a black garage door and wide vinyl siding that snaps in the wind. She speaks in lists and posts pictures of charcuterie boards. They've got a toddler and another child on the way, and a way of talking about my savings as if it were public transit. On February 2nd, Groundhog Day, I already noted he called to say, Dad, you know, they're raising daycare again. Nicole's been stressed. We're just a little tight this month. How tight? Just a bridge, he said. Just this 1 month. $1,200 if you can swing it, and we'll pay you back after tax time. We're due a big return. I said yes. Of course I said yes. It's the reflex that built my life and now erodes it. That bridge became a causeway. The first thanks, Dad, came with a heart emoji from Nicole at 7:48 p.m. Tiny pink gratitude confetti I've learned to distrust. Then came a subscription charge I didn't recognize, $44.99, Family Stream Ultra. Then auto insurance premium, $289.13, a payment I didn't set up, sliding out of my checking like a polite thief. On February 17th, I saw HOA quarterly, $345 with their address. How did my account become their wallet? I told myself it was a mix-up. People make mistakes. We forgive. But forgiveness should not be direct debit. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. There's a diner on Snow Road where the waitress knows the difference between lonely and hungry. I go there Tuesdays. On March 5th, Ethan and Nicole met me. He ordered pancakes he never finishes. She ordered an avocado toast that looked ashamed to be in a diner. They talked about simplifying our life, which is code for complicating yours. Nicole placed a folder on the table like a contract arriving by parachute. It's just to streamline things, she said, so we can help you, Dad. Medical bills, in case anything happens. You know the winter we had. Power of attorney. Durable. The words sat on the page with patience, like cats on a sofa. Just sign, Ethan said. Don't be dramatic, Dad. He was smiling when he said it. He does that, pairs a command with a smile like butter on a knife. I took the papers home. The cats waited. I made coffee, stronger this time, and read. I read the way Carol used to read warranties. Pen in mouth, answering the fine print out loud. The document would give them access to my accounts. That was the point. I could imagine their voices speaking for mine in banks at desks to tellers and managers, the way my son used to speak for me to the coach when he was 12 and angry. The difference, then, is I was on his side. On March 7th at 8:12 a.m., Nicole texted, Did you get a chance to sign? We scheduled the notary for Friday, 10 a.m. at Starbucks on Pearl. I'm old-fashioned. If you're going to take a man's voice, don't do it next to a pastry case. I didn't sign. I told them the printer jammed. I didn't say my throat did. The charges grew legs. On March 18th, country club assessment, $1,150. On March 22nd, home remodel deposit, $5,000, which Nicole later said was just a hold. Dad, calm down, it's a contractor thing. On April 2nd, 2 airline tickets, Cleveland to Fort Lauderdale, $1,486.60. I wrote the numbers down in a spiral notebook, like a priest counting sins. I called my bank, the branch on Ridge Road where the pens are attached with little silver chains, and asked to speak with a human who believes old men can read. A young man named Davis, probably 26, lowered his voice when he heard my age, the way people do when they approach a dog they don't know. He closed out the autopays. He told me to reset my passwords. He deleted trusted devices. He said those words like magic spells. The next day, Nicole called, voice already at a simmer. Ethan's embarrassed. Why would you call the bank before talking to us? We're family. The word family cracked in the middle like a cheap plate. I said, because I'm the one who works the switch labeled electricity. She hung up on me, then texted 10 minutes later. You know what? It's fine. We'll handle our own bills. And then 20 minutes after that, a message from Ethan. Dad, don't be dramatic. We'll fix this. I circled dramatic in my notebook and drew a little crown over it. If you can't laugh, at least you can annotate. May brought lilacs and invoices. They invited me to Olive Garden for Mother's Day because Nicole said it'd be nice to celebrate our whole family. Carol's been gone 8 years. I celebrated by leaving her seat empty because absence deserves its own chair. We were halfway through the breadsticks when Nicole snapped her fingers at a server. She needed lemon. She needed extra napkins. She needed attention. Her phone lay face up like a skylight. My grandson smeared marinara on his cheeks. Ethan said he was exhausted. He says that often, as if exhaustion is a brand you can wear. When the check arrived, Nicole pushed it toward me with 2 fingers and a grin so small I almost missed it. Can we put this on your card? Point, right? She wasn't asking. Ethan coughed into his fist and looked to the ceiling. I looked at the check. $186.43. Something in my chest pivoted. Maybe a gear. Maybe a door. I stood up slowly, the way men my age stand when we mean it. Nicole, I said, you'll pay for this. She laughed. I did not. In the parking lot, a little parade of people approached their cars with leftovers and plastic carnations. Ethan caught up with me at the Saturn I refused to sell. Don't be dramatic, he said again, as if repetition could adjust reality like a thermostat. Don't tell me how to talk in my own weather, I said. I closed the door and drove home with the window down. The night smelled like fryer oil and lilacs. The odometer ticked a small confession. When I got home, I took out the spiral notebook. I listed every charge with dates and tiny notes. Not mine, not authorized, subtle theft. I made columns. At the bottom, I added them up with a pencil and then did it again with my phone calculator, because trust is now a tool I borrow. Total, as of May 12th, $62,780.35. If I were dramatic, I would have thrown the notebook. Instead, I turned a new page and wrote, plan. There's a hardware store on State Road that still smells like twine. On May 15th, I bought a no-frills voice recorder the size of a lighter. Cash $39.99, because I've learned plastic is a leash other people hold. I slid it into the inside pocket of my cardigan, next to the pen that rattles when I tap it. On May 16th, I made an appointment at the bank. Not the kid with the soft voice, but the branch manager, a woman in her 50s with a pin that said Mary B. She shook my hand the way people used to. We sat in her glass box. I handed her my notebook. She didn't smile. She read. Mr. Blaine, she said, these are a lot of charges. Some are disputes. Some are transfers. Some are set up as recurring. We can claw back certain ones, but others, especially transfers authorized via device, will be complicated. Complicated is why I'm here, I said. She closed each autopay like a little coffin. She put notes on the account. She printed me a stack of transaction histories. I asked her to attest to the printouts. She looked pleased. You've done your homework, she said. Most folks just get mad. I told her I've got room for both. On May 21st, I met with a forensic accountant. It's surprising what fits above a Subway sandwich shop, a door, a hallway. A woman named Rachel with a laptop that can see through concrete. She wore square glasses and a sweater with elbow patches, like compassion with a certificate. She said the words elder financial exploitation, as if they belonged to a list she hates. She added, it's a pattern. Bleeds begin with small favors, escalate to access, and then she squeezed an invisible sponge, siphon. She charged $185 an hour. I paid in advance for 10 hours because 10 sounds like authority. She took my bank statements and the notebook. She asked if I had texts. I did. On May 24th, I met an attorney named Marla Jenkins. Her office was in a building where the elevators knew Mondays. She wore navy and a pearl necklace that looked like punctuation. She asked me to tell the story slow. I told it slow. She wrote on a yellow pad, cases, options. We begin with a demand letter, she said, with an itemized ledger and a deadline. If they don't pay, we file a civil suit for conversion and fraud. We can also discuss a restraining order on financial contact. If at any point you feel threatened, we'll add a police report. That night in my kitchen, I made a pot of chili with too much cumin. I stirred it the way you stir grief. Simmer, scrape, taste, repeat. The recorder sat on the counter watching me. The Keurig made a noise like it was clearing its throat. I told the house, we want to do this quietly. The house did not argue. On May 30th, Rachel sent me her preliminary report, $96,430.12 in undisputed transfers and charges from my accounts to theirs over the last 9 months. She had a column called Self-Justifications, where she pasted their messages. We'll pay you right back, March 2nd. It's just an emergency expense, April 11th. Don't be dramatic, May 12th. She totaled everything through June 1st, $121,608.23. I held the printed pages. The numbers were heavy as stones. Marla drafted the letter. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Blaine, it began, because marriage should spread the heat. She bullet-pointed the sums and dates. She underlined unauthorized. She gave them 10 days, June 20th, to arrange repayment or face litigation. We sent it certified. I tracked the little green card like weather. On June 9th, they signed for it. On June 10th, Ethan called. Dad, what the hell is this? He said. It's a letter, I said. Words on paper. Don't be dramatic. There was silence long enough to hear him breathe. Nicole says, you're overreacting, he finally said. We're family. You don't sue family. You don't siphon from family, I said. You don't set up autopays for your HOA on your father's account, then call it love. He swore. He's bad at it. He told me I'd regret this. He hung up. I wrote June 10, 11:22 a.m. in pen next to regret threat. Then I made a ham sandwich and ate it standing up, because dignity can share space with hunger. June 16th was Father's Day. Nicole loves a theme, so she planned a brunch at a place called Maple and Ash, which is not the one you think of in Chicago, but a local copycat with Edison bulbs and a sign that said, brunch is a love language. She invited me in a group message with my son's sisters, who live in Columbia and Kentucky and couldn't come. I told Marla. She said, go. Be cordial. We'll proceed. I put on my good shirt, the one Carol liked, with tiny blue checks that look like patience. I brought a gift for my grandson, a wooden truck that rolls straight, unlike some people. I brought the voice recorder, in case words needed remembering. Nicole arrived in a dress that suggested summer and conquest. Ethan wore a polo with a small horse over his heart. He kissed the air near my cheek. Dad, he said, thanks for being here. Let's have a good day. His eyes were already far away, watching for a crash. The server poured coffee like expensive rain. The menu made normal food sound like a TED Talk: heritage bacon, farm eggs, artisan toast. We ordered. Ethan talked about a new role at his company, regional something. Nicole talked about a baby shower and registry optimizations. She slipped in, almost casually. We were worried when you made those changes at the bank. It made balancing things trickier. I said, you'll adjust. She smiled the way a knife does when it catches light. We always do, she said. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. It was Mary B. from the bank, whose name I'd saved as Mary B., branch manager, because some people deserve their titles. I excused myself. In the hallway near the restrooms, where all restaurants put their secrets, I answered. Mr. Blaine, she said, just an alert. There was an attempted wire from your account this morning, $12,000, to the same contractor as before. We declined it as per your instructions. I wanted you to be aware. I said, thank you, Mary. I am aware. I returned to the table. Everything okay? Nicole said, a look of faux concern on her face. She's practiced. I said, Mary sends her best. Ethan's fork paused in midair. Nicole looked like a woman who just remembered something fragile on the stove. The air tightened. My coffee tasted better. We ate. We did not laugh. We reached the part of the meal where everyone wants a check because the room is holding its breath. The server placed a little leather folder at the table's edge and stood back. Nicole placed her hand on it, then slid it, with a flourish toward me. "Dad, would you?" "I've actually got something for you," I said. From my pocket, I took out a small envelope. Inside, a photocopy of Marla's demand letter and the green tracking card showing delivery. I placed it gently on the table, like the smallest brick in a very serious house. "Oh my God," Nicole said, her voice rising then flattening as she wrestled it back down. "Are you seriously doing this here?" Ethan reached across for it. On the envelope in Marla's neat print, Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Blaine. He tucked it aside without reading. "Dad," he said, "don't be dramatic." "Ethan," I said, read. "And because there were other tables, and because he likes to perform even when the stage is on fire," he did. He opened the envelope, took out the letter, and read a line out loud, the way men read when they want to own the air. "On behalf of our client, Mr. Harold Blaine, this is a demand for repayment of $121,608.23, $121,608.23, for unauthorized transfers, charges, and conversion, including but not limited to HOA assessments $1,035, airline tickets $1,486.60, contractor deposits $5,000, country club fees $3,450, and miscellaneous subscriptions $897.44. He stopped. He looked at me. He looked at Nicole. I saw her tongue press against her teeth. The table behind us went quiet. He kept reading, because he'd started the play and the curtain was up. Failure to remit within 10 days of receipt will result in immediate filing of a civil action in Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas for conversion, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Sincerely, Marla T. Jenkins, attorney at law. Nicole hissed at him. "Stop." He didn't. He read the last line. "Please be advised that all future contact regarding Mr. Blaine's finances should be directed to counsel." When he reached the end, he laughed. It was a brittle sound. "Well," he said, turning to me, "this is insane. You're really going to sue your own son." "I'm going to ask a judge to help me get my money back," I said, from a man who took it. He dropped the letter onto the table as if it were contagious. He raised his voice. "He's old," he said to the room that did not ask. "He's confused." The server blinked. The couple next to us looked at their phones in a manner I recognized as rehearsed. "Ethan," I said, my voice low, "sit down." He did not. He stalked off to the host stand. I watched him wave his hands. The universal sign for my world won't obey me. He came back, sat, slapped the bill toward himself, then put his credit card down. "We'll pay for this," he said, as if paying for eggs forgives theft. "Good," I said. "Start small." Nicole looked at the letter as if it might bite. She whispered, "You'll regret this." "I'm old," I said. "I regret fewer things each year." 10 days passed. On June 21st, Marla filed the complaint. On June 25th, a process server with a flat-top haircut and a T-shirt that said Cleveland Browns knocked on their door. He posted a photo to the service portal. Ethan, holding the papers with an expression I recognized from his 9th grade report card. They continued as if life were a rug you could throw over a trapdoor. Nicole posted beach photos, frozen smiles, the Lake Kiriwater Gray as a document. Ethan texted me once, "Hope you're happy." I replied, "I'm patient." On July 1st, my granddaughter turned 3. Nicole scheduled a party at a pavilion in the Metroparks, picnic tables with green paint and mosquito ambition. She did not rescind the invitation, because appearances are her oxygen. I went. I like small children and big shade. They decorated with pastel balloons and gold paper crowns. There was a cake from a bakery that overdoes the frosting and underdoes the flavor. I brought a box of wooden blocks and the recorder, which had become my piece of jewelry. Ethan was all smiles. He hugged me, a one-armed performance hug that smelled like cologne and anxiety. "Thanks for coming, Dad," he said. "Let's not make a thing of it today." "Of what?" I said, and unwrapped the napkins from plastic forks. At 2:14 p.m., as a gust of wind pushed paper plates toward the grill, a man in a navy polo and khakis approached. He had that official politeness you learn behind desks. He held a stack of papers. He asked, "Mr. Ethan Blaine?" Nicole looked at him like he'd brought a raccoon. Ethan said yes. The man held out the papers. You've been served." He was very calm. Professionals always are when they bring the weather. Ethan took them. He glanced at the first page. He smiled, then did what he does. He made a scene. He climbed onto the low stone border around the pavilion, raised the papers above his head like a coach with a playbook, and said too loudly, "Oh, come on." "Ethan," Nicole hissed. "Not now." But now it was here. He held the pages up and read, voice like a megaphone that had feelings. In the Court of Common Pleas, Cuyahoga County, Ohio. Harold Blaine versus Ethan Blaine and Nicole Blaine. Complaint for conversion fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. He looked up, smirked, then continued. The defendants did knowingly and without authorization take, transfer, and convert funds totaling $121,608.23. $121,608.23. From the plaintiff through unauthorized auto-pay enrollments, transfers, and debit card usage. The picnic went quiet. Even the pigeons felt the memo. A child dropped a juice pouch. Nicole's mother, who calls me Har like the absence of old is a kindness, sat down heavily on a bench. He read on because he'd committed to the performance. Exhibits include bank statements from Ridge Road branch of First Federal, notated by the branch manager Mary B., text messages containing admissions such as "don't be dramatic," and a report by forensic accountant Rachel Myers, CPA. He faltered on admissions. He glanced at me. I held his gaze. Somewhere behind us, a balloon popped. It sounded like punctuation. "Ethan." Nicole said, "Stop reading." He kept going. Because habit is a stubborn horse. Plaintiff seeks 1. Full repayment of $121,608.23 plus statutory interest. 2. Punitive damages. 3. Attorney's fees. 4. An injunction prohibiting defendants from accessing plaintiff's accounts. And 5. Such other relief as the court deems just and proper. He let the pages drop a little. He swallowed. He has Adam's apple drama. It telegraphs guilt, he said louder, to the air and the trees and the paper plates. This is ridiculous. He's senile. The official in khakis, who hadn't moved, said gently, "Sir, your hearing date is noted on the second page." "Dad," Ethan said, and there was pleading in it I hadn't heard since he asked me to sign his driver's ed permission slip. "Come on." "Read the date," I said. He read, August 12, 9:00 a.m., courtroom 14D. "Put it in your calendar," I said. He laughed, but it was soft and lost, and turned into something else. He crumpled one sheet and then smoothed it back out because even rage has to obey the court. A little voice tugged at my sleeve. My granddaughter, wearing a tiny crown, handed me a napkin with a piece of cake, white frosting, pink letters. "Grandpa," she said, and her voice cut through every adult machine. "Cake?" "Yes," I said. "Thank you." I ate it with a plastic fork. It tasted of sugar and decision. July was busy in a way that makes sleep suspicious. Marla filed motions. Nicole's post got quieter. Ethan called twice late, the kind of calls that say, "If we talk at night, it isn't real." He said we could work this out. He said I was overreacting. He said don't be dramatic, because he believes repetition is a lever. On July 10th, I found a note on my doorstep in Nicole's handwriting. It was a list of expenses they'd paid for me. The handyman who fixed my back steps, I'd paid in cash. A grocery run in March, they'd used my card. Their time and energy, a concept that invoices itself. She totaled it at $2,480 and wrote, "We're even." I folded it and slid it under the foot of the blender, where it could learn about mixing falsehoods. Rachel, the accountant, sent a final report. With late June and early July transactions, the total crept to $133,902.19. She wrote a paragraph about pattern and intent, words that felt like stone stairs. Marla filed an amended complaint. On July 22nd, we had mediation in a room with a ficus that had seen things. The mediator, a man with a mustache who said folks a lot, asked if we could meet in the middle. Nicole wore a sweater like a shield. Ethan wore a suit he hadn't tailored. They offered $10,000 and a promise to be better. Marla slid the offer back like a dish she didn't order. As we were leaving, Nicole caught up to me in the hallway, her heels tapping fast. She said, through a smile, "If you don't stop this, the grandkids won't be around." She said it low like a secret. The recorder in my cardigan did not miss it. Marla listened to the audio later. She looked at me with her lawyer face, which is empathy trimmed with research. "We'll add that," she said. On August 12th, the hearing was at 9:00 a.m. I arrived at 8:30 because I was raised by timetables. Courtroom 14D had wood paneling and an American flag and a judge with a voice that could pin your notes to the wall. Ethan and Nicole sat at their table. Nicole did the thing with her mouth where she makes sympathy for herself. Ethan's leg bounced. Marla leaned toward me. "Breathe," she said. I did. The judge asked questions that had no adjectives. He read Rachel's report. He looked at the bank statements with Mary B.S. notes. He listened to a portion of the audio. Nicole's threat, small and sharp, like broken glass. He looked at Ethan. "Why?" he said. "Did you enroll your father's account in your HOA autopay?" Ethan said, "It was an error." "For 3 consecutive quarters?" the judge said. Ethan said, "We were under stress." The judge said, "Stress is not a debit card." Nicole cried one single, perfect tear. It fell at the right speed. She dabbed it with a tissue like an actress in a cigarette ad. The judge looked at her, then back to the paper. Paper has no tears. That's its strength. He granted a preliminary injunction. No contact with my accounts. No access under any power of attorney. He set a date for trial. He encouraged settlement consistent with arithmetic. He used the word arithmetic like a gavel. As we left, Ethan almost reached for my arm, and then didn't. "Dad," he said, "we can fix this." "We are," I said. "This is the fixing." September leaned into the trees. I raked leaves in my backyard. Small circles of order in a season that refuses. The Saturn needed a new alternator. I paid cash at a garage where Frank still calls me Mr. Blaine, even when I ask him not to. My neighbor Lorraine brings me apples from her cousin's orchard. I slice them thin, microwave a little bowl of caramel. Watch the Browns lose on Sunday with the sound down. It's amazing what you can hear when you lower the volume. Marla called on September 9th. "They've agreed to settle," she said. Not because they became good people, but because math. The number, $150,000, restitution and fees. Structure, $50,000 up front within 30 days, $100,000 over 12 months. Secured by a lien on their SUV and their tax refund. Default triggers acceleration and wage garnishment. "I want a letter," I said. "Not a templated sorry. A real one." She said, "We can ask. We can't make them mean it." I said, "Ask anyway." On October 1st, a cashier's check arrived by courier in an envelope that smelled like a stranger's house. $50,000. I took it to the bank. Mary B. shook my hand. I told her to tell her pens. I said hello. On October 5th, the letter came, handwritten in Ethan's neat print from the days before he learned shortcuts. "Dad," it began. We didn't realize how much we were taking. We thought. I stopped reading there. If we're doing arithmetic, we didn't realize minus we took it equals we did. I made a copy for my file. Then I placed the original in a shoebox Carol had labeled Christmas cards in her square hand. I slid it under the bed. Sins and ornaments keep well together. On October 12th, at 7:15 p.m., there was a knock. I opened the door to find Ethan, hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels like a boy who wants to leave and stay. "Can we talk?" he said. "On the porch," I said. He looked older than 38. I suppose I looked older than 71. He said, "Nicole's mad at me. She says I should have handled it." He smiled without joy. "You know how she gets." "I do," I said. "The question is, do you?" He looked at his shoes. "I hate that we're here," he said. "So do I," said. "We could have been somewhere else." He nodded, as if remembering a fork in the road. "Can I see the kids?" he said, then shook his head. Can you see the kids?" "Nicole thinks," he stopped. "I'd like to," I said. "No money conversations. No loans. Ever again." He nodded. "Also," I said, "you stop calling me dramatic." He looked up with real eyes. "Okay," he said. "I'm sorry." He meant the small thing. He did not mean the big one. But small is where you start. We sat out there for 20 minutes. He told me about a project at work that will not matter in 5 years. I told him the Saturn passed 200,000 miles. We agreed the Browns will break our hearts forever, and we'll let them. When he left, I went inside. I poured myself an inch of the scotch I keep for holidays. I toasted the thermostat At 68, holding steady, I toasted the Keurig, which sputtered like applause. In November, at a school Thanksgiving event where parents bring canned goods and children dress as historically inaccurate pilgrims, my granddaughter wore a brown paper vest and a construction paper crown. She saw me across the cafeteria and shouted, "Grandpa," loud enough to make teacher laugh. She handed me a tiny handprint traced in orange, labeled in her teacher's neat script. "I am thankful for Grandpa." Ethan stood next to us, his hands in his pockets, his smile quiet. Nicole took a photo and did not post it. Progress comes in strange silences. On the way out, Ethan said, "We'll make the next payment Friday." "I know," I said. He glanced at me. "Thanks for coming," he said. "It's a school cafeteria," I said. "I've eaten in worse rooms." Outside, the wind lifted leaves in a little dance. The sky had that Cleveland cloud that looks like a wool blanket. I felt light in the particular way a man feels light when he is no longer carrying someone else's groceries. He once told me not to be dramatic. He read my summons out loud to the entire picnic. Life has its comedy. The court has its arithmetic. At home, I turned the thermostat to 68 and wrote one last line in the spiral notebook. Paid in part, owed in full. Interest accruing. Dignity non-negotiable. And then I closed it because the point had been made.